Angst-Slop is like the ultimate buzzword, right? It combines two words that are already used as a swift way to disregard something into a sharp arrow of easy criticism, which has been fired into quite a few popular movies, games, and shows. In fact, one of those shows, or I guess seasons, has been this recent stretch of TPOT episodes, which, by having a larger focus on high stakes, character arcs, and major plot lines, have gotten hit with this angsty label. The discourse is mainly on Twitter and TikTok, aka where buzzwords thrive, and because we're in the middle of these Defeat 1 episodes, I want to throw my hat into the Angst-Slop ring by taking a look at where the critique started to spring up, the specific reasons behind it, and what I personally make of the show becoming more serious. There's a lot to be said about how Teapot has evolved, so let's not stall any longer and answer if Teapot is Angst-Slop. Now I hope y'all are ready for a rabbit hole with this topic, because there's a lot of weirdly complex shit to talk about with this one critique, and if we want to have a grasp on it, we gotta start by talking about where it came from. You see, back during Teapot 1 through 14, nobody was calling the season Angst-Slop, and not just cause the word didn't exist yet. These episodes do have a larger focus on character arcs and storylines compared to BFB, hence why Michael and Carrie decided to split BFB in the first place. Yet even as things really heat up in episodes like 7, 9, 10, and 13, Teapot still has a very fun vibe. We have vibrant backgrounds, goofy teams, lots of jokes, and no matter how good or mid an episode may be, because they're all decently long, there's a lot of runtime to slowly build multiple things up, and it never feels like we have any jarring tone shifts when crucial character or plot moments do take place, because the show does a great job at leading into them. We have a solid flow in this 14 episode crop, and it isn't until Teapot 15 where this trend gets rattled, because damn, that title ain't lying, cause we do be having a seasonal shift in tone. For most of the episode, we're going through the whole 15-year anniversary shebang, with a ton of fan service, action, comedy, and high stakes tackled in a similar way to Teapot 9 or 13, where it's like serious, but not like super serious. However, towards the end of seasonal shift, we have two flickers of that super seriousness coming from Pencil and the ending. Starting with Crash Out City over here first, Pencil had been on a bit of a mean streak since she rejoined, but her blowing up at Golf Ball, consumed by rage and fear after being trapped in the exit, is a big leap that's played completely straight. Now it's not crazy intense or anything, like, come on now, let's be for real, yet the scene is still eye-catchingly different from how the show usually is, and after it's followed up with the steel chair of the oh shit Claudia screwed us and we're legit gonna die scene at the end of the episode, I think here's where you could say Teapot commits to going in a plot heavier, or rather angstier, direction. It takes more than a few sparks to make a fire though, since this isn't the episode where the Teapot is too angsty discourse really took off. Things calm down a bit in Teapot 16 and 17 after all, as both episodes keep comedy in the forefront and do a nice job weaving in the serious or plot heavy scenes they do have in a natural way. Said scenes have grown gloomier and tenser since the rift appeared, but none of them are at the same world-ending level of Teapot 15, and after these episodes were followed up by an almost entirely fun outing in Teapot 18, it was looking like things might stay chill for a few more episodes, until we get hit with Steel Chair number 2 and have to take a seat back in Serious Town, because from Teapot 19 onwards, those serious sparks have lit a fire painted over every episode. The sky is blacked out, tensions are high, comedy has become secondary to the plot and raised stakes, and after 3 or so episodes that maintain this energy, the Angst-Slop allegations hit the mainstream. So yeah, it took a long time for the show getting too dark to become a problem people had with the season, and because all these debates only started in the past year or so, the word Angst-Slop is very volatile. It covers way more stuff than the regular definition of the word, which is simply about shock value, and now that we've made it to the primary episodes where this concern resides, we need to talk about the expanded reasons behind why Teapot is called Angst-Slop, which is split into 4 specific categories. Starting with the most obvious one, TPOT is called Angst-Slop because of how different it feels. No other season has dove headfirst into having a big overarching plot like TPOT has, so some will say that TPOT doesn't fit in and is too different from what BFDI should be. Like, they don't care about the backstories or end of the world, they just want goofy characters and challenges. So by changing things up, the season becomes bad and is forcing this grounded tone. And hey, feeling forced is actually our second specific, because by embracing a mood that's at odds with BFDI's usual comedy, they'll say episodes like 19, 21, and 23 have a tone problem and fail to balance goofing off and locking in. From there, our third specific is less about TPOT itself, and it's that the jokey haha show becoming serious pipeline has become oversaturated. Plenty of other regular and object shows have done the same thing TPOT is doing, with some being good, some being mixed, and some being, really bad. But regardless of the batting average, the fact there are so many shows doing the same kind of thing can create a feeling of fatigue and annoyance when the biggest object show around is also doing it. Lastly, our fourth specific is directly about TPOT again, and it's that people say focusing on all these big plot lines causes unbalanced screen time. You have characters like Pencil and One eating 5-star gourmet meals, meanwhile everyone else is fighting for scraps between all the side plot lines, each other, and how TPOT is moving like Avengers Endgame by bringing in all the eliminated characters, making everything unbalanced and messy. Those are the key issues, and when you throw them all in a witch pot, mix it up, and add a wasp for that toxic buzz, you get the blunt statement that TPOT is Angst-Slop. See what I mean when I said it was all weirdly complicated? Because having so many angles to the phrase makes it apply differently to every episode it's been thrown at past TPOT 18. There's just a lot to the whole thing, and while so far I've only talked about general opinions, I'm gonna stop fence-sitting now because having said all these reasons for why people say TPOT is Angst-Slop, I actually disagree with the broad idea and think the phrase is a bad and vague way to describe some of the season's actual problems. And there definitely are actual problems in these next 6, or well, nobody calls TPOT 22 Angst-Slop, so 5 episodes that tie into our specific reasons. So how about we now go through the issues commonly connected to Angst-Slop within these episodes, so I can say what ones I think do and don't hold up, along with why I think Angst-Slop in general is a bad way to describe them. Alright, of these 5 episodes, this is definitely the most well-liked one, but even so, there are some angsty issues people have expressed. The main 2 I've seen are that it struggles to balance screen time, with Pencil having way more than characters who die early, and that the dark tone it has feels forced, with scenes like Grassy in the Vent trying too hard to be serious. Now that first point I do agree with, since TPOT has always had a hard time balancing screen time, and in a Battle Royale challenge, the early outs of Fanny, Marker, Pen, Tennis Ball, and Tree were simply doomed to get less content due to staying dead. Pencil getting a ton of focus can also be irritating, especially if you compare her content this season to Lie, and while I do find her scenes interesting here, I still agree with the general problem of dividing screen time in this episode. Does that problem make the episode Angst-Slop though? Not really, cause again, plenty of pre-TPOT 15 episodes have the same issue, and neither does the feeling too different / dark problem, because the show has clearly been building up to an episode like this for a while. Ever since TPOT 9, one has spent all her time plotting in the shadows, so an episode where she gets in the thick of it and makes a grab at power is something that needed to happen, along with needing an appropriate shift in tone. If everything was all smiles for the whole cast in the challenge, the episode straight up wouldn't work. And while you can call things like the tense mood or Grassy crying in the vents a bit heavy-handed, there's a clear and effective intention with every major component of this episode. So with all these things in mind, I feel pretty confident in saying that being Angst-Slop is not a good way to describe the issues TPOT 19 does have. TPOT 20, on the other hand, is less clean-cut. Now, I did make a whole video about the episode when it dropped, but low-key, I think there was some recency bias in my veins, cause while I haven't fully switched up on the episode, I definitely would have focused more on the problems it has if I made that video now. The most commonly discussed of which being that having a whole episode dedicated to one's backstory is unnecessary, it has poor pacing, it mischaracterizes 4, makes one less threatening, and okay, this last one is just an angry face with the caption "I hate algebrailians," which feels like a topic way too big for this video, so I'm gonna put it aside and get into these other critiques. Firstly, I think pointing out the pacing problems is totally valid, but like with screen time distribution, BFDI in general has dealt with poor pacing long before it tried to be serious. And in the same way, the episode feeling unnecessary is something all non-competition episodes have to deal with, leaving the character issues of 1 and 4 as the only issues that fully align with the idea of Angst-Slop. With 4, he wasn't originally meant to be a grounded character back in pre-split, so writing him with more depth and motivations is really hard, and consequently, he's had a lot of inconsistencies, first in post-split, and now TPOT through the show becoming darker and more plot-focused. His character has genuinely been hurt by the season giving him serious motivations, and for one, although I don't think TPOT 20 makes her a worse character, because the episode reveals nearly every aspect of her past, she does lose some strength as a villain through no longer having that fear of the unknown she had back when her true motivations were shrouded in mystery. Needless to say, these are some fair arguments, but when you take these good points against TPOT 20 and extend them to the entire season, they get a lot less strong. Again, I already don't think 1 is poorly written in this episode, but even if I did and thought her writing was turbo ass or something, it takes way more than a single bad character or episode to ruin an entire season. There have been over 70 characters who've competed after all who can pick up the slack, making the failings a few of them have hold a lot less weight by comparison. So when only talking about this episode's angsty issues, I will agree that aspects of how 4 and 1 were handled could have been better, but even with those faults, I wouldn't call TPOT 20 Angst-Slop, nor do I agree with using the term as a blanket statement for calling all of TPOT bad. And with that, all we have left is TPOT 21, 23, and 24, which I'm going to combine into one big section because the problems against them are very similar. All of them are in a weird zone of needing to be serious to set up an intense, dramatic final showdown against 1, while having lots of BFDI's classic comedy, which creates 2 primary issues, being a tone problem, paired with having too many plotlines happening at the same time. Both problems are pretty major, and to me are probably the strongest parts of the Angst-Slop argument, since in these episodes I really don't have a counterpoint to either one. With TPOT 21, you can tell it wants to be a brighter episode after Grassy rebuilds Lie, but the bleak setting is just a permanent barrier to that goal. It's like the plot is always looming, always watching, which is great if you want to create a darker mood, much like how the episode opens, but if you don't, then the darkness is going to create a clash, and here the fun energy of the challenge feels a bit off, especially when it comes to characters like Book, Marker, and Winner. They just feel tacked on, and when combined with how the episode throws in a bunch of side plot lines too, TPOT 21 is a bit overstuffed, which is a problem TPOT 23 cranks up to 100, because oh my god, there is so much happening. Not only do we have all the eliminated characters in the mix now, but everyone is split up into mini groups for some reason, meaning we're bouncing like a damn pinball from scene to scene to scene, in an issue completely caused by TPOT getting serious. I do think there's supposed to be a lot going on, with how the "Black Hole Save Me" montage shows how scrambled everyone is, but in practice, this episode is a total mess. Thankfully, TPOT 24 struggles with these issues far less by slowing down for strong character moments and bringing everyone together by the end of the episode. However, there is still a lot happening, which leads to some competing peeps getting totally shafted, and I think the way scenes are organized can be a bit clunky too. Point is, all 3 of these episodes face the same problems to some degree, and to me, they stand as probably the best demo on Team Angst-Slop for why TPOT becoming serious and having a big storyline with a bunch of moving parts can be a bad thing. Hell, keeping track of all the moving parts in episodes like TPOT 23 is almost as weirdly complicated as the whole topic of Angst-Slop. There are just so many damn problems the word has been applied to, as you've probably noticed by how all over the place these episode discussions have been. But now that we've gone through every episode and seen that, yes, there are some angst-based problems with the season, I think it's time for me to fully lay out the biggest reason why I'm still against the word. There are for sure places where the term lines up with TPOT's problems, but to me, regardless of where it's used, the whole statement just reeks of being a super closed-minded and toxically negative way of looking at the season. As I said at the start, it's a word meant to swiftly disregard something, and while you need snappy words like it when chatting online, the vagueness of Angst-Slop when using it against TPOT makes it so trying to use the word as a gotcha or huge issue with the season isn't constructive at all. It's not a well thought out argument using X, Y, and Z to support a point, but rather a quick buzzword that by attempting to explain so many things, holds hardly any substance beyond, respectfully speaking, sounding butthurt that TPOT isn't exactly like BFDIA or Pre-Split, when the season is clearly trying something new with the groundwork of BFDI. Like, imagine you're an author, right? Usually you write simple comedies, but today you want to try to use your style to cover darker topics, deep characters, trying to cook up the next Hunger Games or something. But when you share a draft of the story with a friend, the only criticism you get from them is that it's kinda low-key sorta Angst-Slop. What the hell are you supposed to do with that information? Like, even if we're using the shock value definition, it's just a nothing way of describing something, which leaves all the cases where it can swing at TPOT's recent episodes as something better explained by saying literally anything else. And that really is the bottom line of this whole debate. TPOT is far from a perfect season, and the flaws it has should be talked about lest we start dealing with toxic positivity, but calling the season Angst-Slop is just a cheap way to go about it. I'll be interested to see if the word stays relevant after TPOT 25 ties a bow on the whole one plot line, but no matter how TPOT 25 or the rest of the season goes, I'll remain firm in my opinion that no, TPOT is not Angst-Slop. That's all I gotta say. If you haven't, please subscribe, like, hype, share, hit that bell, comment if you have any thoughts, and thanks for slopping by.